Hello, 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 and welcome to a brand new show of Three Drams. As always, I'm your host, Potstilled Matt, also known as Matt Healy from potstill.com, and I am delighted to have you all here tonight because this is episode 44 of Three Drams, which means we have been going for 45 months of bringing the best of Irish whiskey direct to your door. There has been lots of evolutions to both the whiskey, the show format, the backgrounds, but also the boxes over time. So if you are not a subscriber to Three Drams, you don't know this box. In it, you will have three of these lovely sample bottles every month dropped to your door, and then also your little tasting card that comes with it from the fine folks at Three Drams. As always, I want you to know that I have no part in Three Drams except showing up, talking to you folks, and trying to look pretty while I do it. This is all of the mastermind of the guys from Irish Malts, the team down there, and of course the O'Donovan brothers who make this all possible. There are people that join in from all over the world. They are joining us either live like you guys right now, or they are joining us from time zones that don't suit right this moment, watching back after the fact. We have a huge contingent, of course, in Germany, friends over in Japan, Australia, Brazil, Canada, and of course in the United States. And then, of course, we cannot forget all of our friends in Ireland. I see lots of people saying hello in the comments section. It's good to see so many familiar faces. We're seeing Martin coming back. Good evening to you. Grzegorz coming in from Newcastle. It's not your usual base, Grzegorz, but it's good to see you here. Hopefully you've taken us on the road with you. Marissa is saying hello from Mill Street. She'll be in Port McGee tomorrow. And that is very topical because, of course, we have Port McGee on this evening. Alan dropping in from Galway. Martin is joining us from Limerick. Aaron joining us from Meath. We have Middleton, the Glanmire Mafia are in town. And, of course, we have friends from County Down. Becky, to all of you, very big welcome. It is great to have you. If you're watching back after the fact, it's also great to have you as well. You guys, I know some of you are joining in because you're in work. Some of you are joining in because it is a bad time zone for you. But if you're watching back at home, we see you and we appreciate you. But of course, listen, it's enough of me talking. No one is here to listen to me yammer on, because we're here to talk to the flavor makers and creators of these fantastic Irish whiskies. And this is the time of the night where I get to introduce my first guest of the evening. So without further ado, we're going to jump into dram number one, Iver one. Remember, guys, ask your questions in the comments section, because this is your chance to sit down with the flavor makers and creators of these whiskies. If you have a question about their setups, their distilleries, their casks, their bonding, the blends, or other whiskies that they make, ask in the comment section, because here they are on camera for your pleasure. But no further ado, this is Dram Iver 1, number 1, the Port McGee small batch, and I am delighted to invite back onto the show Mr. James Murphy, co-founder of Port McGee. Welcome, sir. How are you doing?
Matt, thanks for having us, and thanks for having us back. It was actually my brother who was on the very first Three Drams, but there's a similar face to us. So
you're throwing me. Same background, same name. My apologies. Well, welcome to the show, James. I'm delighted to have you.
Yeah,
I am thrilled to have Port McGee back on the show. This is, of course, dram number 1 here. We are seeing a number of people dropping into the comment section, and a couple people saying they're dropping in and coming back a little bit later on. So I'm going to pour one out to you guys. And as I said, James, you wouldn't have been here, but previously I have said that I pour very visibly from the bottle into the glass, because on the first 2 months of this show, 42 months ago, people accused me of having special samples from the distilleries. I'm showing you that I'm drinking along with you. So
authentic to the fault.
Exactly. So this is the Port McGee whiskey. This is your small batch. I'm going to pull the picture again. Why don't you tell us a little bit about this, just as we start off, and then we can get right into it.
Yeah, so our Port McGee small batch, that was actually the second whiskey we've produced so far. The very first one was actually a similar blend of a 9-year-old single grain, 13-year-old single malt. So once we released that, we kind of said to ourselves, we want to bring, I guess, a product that has a slighter, cheaper price point. So we decided to release basically an unaged version of our 9-year-old blend. So what we have here is a blend of a single grain whiskey and a single malt whiskey, aged between the years 3 to 5 years old is kind of what we're selecting. And then we finish off in a Barbados rum cask for about 6 months. So I guess in general, when we were designing this whiskey, and in particular the 9-year-old, we were kind of thinking about who the target audience is. And I guess our target audience on the ground here is the tourists that come to Portmagee. So we were trying to create a whiskey that kind of had a mass appeal, that would appeal to non-whiskey drinkers as much as whiskey drinkers, because the idea is that people come to Portmagee, they go to the restaurants, go to the pubs, they get offered a Portmagee. You may not be a whiskey drinker, but when you're on your holidays, you might be feeling a bit experimental or a bit adventurous, and you'll give it a go. And the idea was to create a whiskey that was very easy drinking, lovely flavors, not too harsh on any element of it, but nice and easy, nice and smooth. And I guess for me, it's the Barbados rum cask that really rounds off the kind of flavor and the finish of it, gives you a nice long finish as well. Even though we're using younger whiskies here, where you tend to get the spice on the front of the drinks when you have the younger whiskies, with the way we've blended it, we're kind of blending it to make it smooth. But as it is young whiskies, you do get a little bit of spice on the front. But on the nose, then it's got a lovely kind of fruitiness to it. And you definitely pick up those Barbados rum hints coming through as well. But you got your vanillas, you got your fruit cakes. But I'd always be hesitant to say exactly what you should be experiencing, because my own personal thoughts on it, that everyone interprets whiskey in their own way. So whatever you experience is correct yourself. So I generally give it an overarching description as having some sort of fruity kind of sweetness. For me, if I whittle it down myself, green apple skin is kind of what I get out of it. But other people, as I'm doing whiskey tastings here in Portmagee, people say peaches, pears, pineapples, all sorts of things have been said to me. So it's just got this nice kind of fruity sense to it. On the palate then, as I said, you just get that little bit of spice on the front of the drink, nice and smooth on the palate, and exceptionally smooth going down the palate. But we'll have a little sip, I suppose, and I'll say sláinte to you guys. So as I said, a little bit of spice on the front, but nothing too harsh. Lovely kind of sweetness on the tongue. Maybe the muir sugars and the brown sugars kind of come through. And then as it goes down, just nothing but smooth, kind of buttery, easy drinking whiskey. So that was kind of what we were aiming to do with it. I'm pretty confident in saying that we've achieved a very easy drinking whiskey, but it has enough depth for it going through for, say, the aficionados to enjoy as well. But as I said, it was kind of designed for both the non-whiskey drinker as well as the whiskey drinker as a tourism product here in Portmagee. But give you a little bit of background as to where we do our production at the moment. So we kind of like to tell our guests and our visitors who come to us that you've kind of found us at the beginnings of a journey, and we're at the beginnings of a long journey of development here in Portmagee. So our distillery is currently under construction in what is our old family farm buildings. So to produce the whiskies at the moment, we use the Great Northern Distillery, where we can source, blend, and finish whiskies. So that's kind of where we're at with the business at the moment. We blend, we finish whiskies using the Great Northern Distillery, John Teeling, of course. So we've created 3 different whiskies, and the idea is that we've created a brand that kind of tells a story, and story is kind of where it all actually began, strangely enough. A lot of people set out to, I guess, start a distillery, but it actually didn't start off like that for us. The background of it is kind of storytelling. My personal background before we got into this line of work was video editing. I was a video editor up in Dublin for a good decade, I suppose. So storytelling was always something I was doing as almost a profession in one sense. Kind of like the same as yourself. They're presenting content to tell stories and stuff like that. So the initial idea of our development was actually a visitor experience that would tell the history and story of Portmagee. And it was kind of almost, in one sense, almost accidental that we fell into the whiskey world. As we were developing our experience down here, we met a guy called Stuart McNamara, who was a whiskey blogger when we first met Stuart. He had a lot of connections within the whiskey industry, and he had always visions of creating a whiskey and releasing whiskies and maybe even eventually starting a distillery. So I guess when we both met, it was just a happy marriage that he was looking for space to develop a distillery, and we were always kind of I guess, throwing around the idea of possibly matching some sort of product with the experience. And whiskey for me always was the perfect product to tell a story. Fantastic branding, tell stories. The people behind the whiskeys themselves always have a good story. But obviously, sink a few whiskeys into it, and you'll usually tell a good story, or at least that's my experience anyway. So it kind of began with that, and over the course of the first few years of the company, we got our building designed, we got the planning permission and all that. So at the moment, we're essentially at the trying to find investment stage to get the actual distillery built. But we do have our 3 other whiskey products that we produce offsite at the moment that kind of help us get the brand out, slowly get the ball rolling. But yeah, a long journey yet ahead of us before we actually have our own distillery built.
Absolutely. Can you give us any details about what that future distillery will look like? I presume it'll be a couple of pot stills, 2 or 3.
Yeah, so our hope is the distillery side of things isn't fully designed yet. We're kind of waiting until a few things fall into place before we kind of get that ball rolling. But yeah, we're looking for the traditional triple distilled 3 pot stills side by side. I will say we don't have any major visions of developing a massive distillery. That's not really the agenda. It's not really about huge production as such. It's always been based around, I guess, bringing in a new kind of asset to the area that we live in, the Skellig Coast, and it's a new kind of tourism distillery, I guess, fully operational, producing whiskies, but producing at very small batch, very small, I guess, batches and stuff like that. So you'll be able to come in. It'll be a small building, 3 pot stills. We'll have our distiller hopefully on site every day, where people can come in, talk to him directly, and then once we have that going, what we have beside the distillery development is the ruins of an old RIC barracks, the RIC being the Royal Irish Constabulary. They built a building in Portmagee in the 1800s, basically a police station to basically quell the smuggling that was involved in the village. The village was actually founded by a smuggler called Theobald McGee. It's kind of part of our story, and it's the reason we finish off in our Barbados rum cask, because trying to reflect the little history of the area, rum synonymous with piracy and smuggling and all that. So we wanted to use these different elements to reflect the history of the area. So that's where the Barbados rum cask idea came from. But basically that RIC barracks was built to stop the smuggling in the area, and eventually it did stop the smuggling. But after the Irish War of Independence, the building, which was 4 times larger than what it is now, it actually got burnt down and destroyed. There was a riot here in Portmagee at the time, and the building was burnt down. And then my great-grandfather ended up acquiring that ruined building in the surrounding farmland, and he turned the old RIC barracks into what is now our original family home. My great-grandfather raised my grandfather inside that building, and now I'm actually raising my son in the same building that my father was raised in, which is my grandparents' house next to the RIC barracks. So I guess, funnily enough, my dream is to roll out of bed and there's a distillery in my backyard, and we just start cooking up some whiskies and drinking whiskies, telling stories. That's the dream anyway. But yeah, the old RIC barracks was the original Murphy family home. My grandfather used it as a cowshed, and we are turning it into the whiskey bar attached to our distillery. So there's a nice history kind of in every aspect of what we're developing. What we have in Portmagee currently is we have 2 very large geodesic domes. They're very large dome structures. And basically inside those, we have a visitor experience that will tell the history and story of Portmagee, from the smuggling, from the fishing, and in particular the story of what is called a seine boat, which is a localized fishing vessel unique to the Iveragh Peninsula. So you've heard of obviously the Navogues and the Currachs, but the seine boat is a very unique fishing vessel based here on the Iveragh Peninsula, and nowhere else in Ireland really ever adopted this style of fishing or that boat, and it's a unique part of our history. And if you want to look at the bottle, the actual illustration on the front of the bottle is of one of the local seine boats.
Let me pull that up there. You've got that in front of you.
Yeah, so it's a beautiful image that we had produced for us. An artist actually did a wood cutout of that illustration. So the detail he managed to get in that piece of art is phenomenal, and it really kind of showcases the essence or the spirit of that boat. Those Celtic swirls running through the seascape there give it a sense of history and a sense of place. and then it kind of has a modern kind of take on it as well. But it's all about celebrating what is a unique history and culture by ourselves, with the boat being used as a fishing vessel for about 300 years, and in the last, say, 100 years or so, the boat evolved into a racing vessel. So we actually race the same boats in the Iveragh Peninsula to this very day. So again, like the boat and the history, it's very unique to ourselves and something we're very proud of. So we kind of look at the bottle as kind of an ambassador for both the fishing boat that is the same boat, the culture of racing it, and just an ambassador for basically our village as well and the history behind it. And I guess the whole idea is to develop a brand that will bring more people down to our little village, and through the whiskey brand, ultimately our distillery, or a visitor experience, we're hoping that we can hopefully extend the tourism season down here on the Iveragh Peninsula, down the Skellig Coast, because we are kind of, as much as it is our hero kind of tourist attraction, the Skellig Islands, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. It opens in May, closes in October, so it can get very quiet over the winter months. So the hope is that this brand, this business, will actually hopefully bring more people into the area over the course of decades, if not centuries. We're hoping to be around, actually.
Absolutely fantastic. And are you seeing a buy-in from, the locals in the area, the bars and the restaurants and stuff, as you mentioned?
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the old adage, all boats rise with the tide. So as we support each other, we're building up the fame of the area. Everyone will benefit from working together. That's kind of what we always say down here. So yeah, the bars and restaurants, the local shops, local off license and all, they all supply us, and they're very, very good supporters of us from the very, very start, I have to say so.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic to hear. And then I suppose for the future of the brand, last time we tried your 9-year-old. Obviously, this time we're trying the small batch. What can people expect from the brand going forward? Is there a plan? Are there releases coming out? Is there a future, I suppose, roadmap that you're able to give us a sneak peek into?
Yeah, I guess so. With the 3 products we produce up in the Great Northern Distillery, the one we're trying here, the small batch, is kind of our mass produced, but far from mass produced. Our 2 other expressions, we have the 9-year-old and we have a pot still as well. They're single cask releases. So every few months we will be releasing the next cask. We only release 1 cask at a time. So, for example, we have just released our 13th cask of the 9-year-old, and we're just coming to the ends of the 5th cask of our pot still. So you can be, I guess, looking out now for cask number 13 of the 9-year-old, and in probably a month or 2 now, we'll probably be releasing what will be the 6th cask of our single pot still. But those are obviously what we produce off-site up in the Great Northern Distillery. But ultimately, the goal here is to start producing whiskey in our backyard, essentially. So I guess down the line, if I was to give a time frame as to when all this is kind of starting to come together, we're hoping to break ground on the distillery building itself this winter. So hopefully we have the actual frame of the building done by next summer. And then the year after that, we're hoping that we might find a little bit of funding to get the actual distillery equipment installed. Year after that, hopefully we're producing. Then 3 years after that, then we'll hopefully, well, depending on how well it turns out, whether we have to wait another year or so, probably 2030 is when we're going to release our first whiskey. So as anyone who's in the whiskey game knows, a little bit of patience doesn't go astray. But yeah, in terms of the whiskeys we actually are going to produce here, our long-term vision is trying to develop what is a sustainable business. That's something that will last for generations to come. Our family's been here in Portnaguee for 5 generations, so we're hoping that this business is something, if not our family, some other family from Portnaguee will have taken over, and in 5 generations' time, we're still going. So our hope in the long term is actually to hopefully produce a little barley ourselves in a few of the fields that are around the distillery. Ultimately, we'd like to see maybe our neighbours around us help us out and use a few fields of theirs to grow barley. Obviously, a challenge growing barley in the climate and the area that we are, but I'm confident enough. I was chatting to a few people from Donegal last year, and they mentioned about a co-op of farmers coming together about 10 years ago and starting to grow barley for what is, I guess, a thriving industry up in Donegal now. Started out with 10 farmers, and now I think there's 60 farmers involved in that co-op growing barley up in Donegal. So if they can do it in Donegal, we can do it down here in Kerry. That's the kind of way I look at it.
Absolutely. Marissa's wondering, do you have a tasting room she can visit? Because she says she's going to be there this.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if you're coming into the village, we're just at the foot of the village, just before you turn right, heading to Valencia Island. You have a bridge, and you'll be turning left into Portmagee village. Just before that, there's a Garda barracks, left-hand turn. You can't miss us because the domes are very unique looking. So just follow the domes and you'll find us here. This is our tasting room that I'm actually speaking from now. So we do tastings from 10 till 6 every day. So we have lots of people calling up, but absolutely, we're welcome anyone who wants to try, and we're delighted to have them up and tell people our story, I guess.
Fantastic. If people are looking for you around the world or online, where should they be looking in terms of retailers or countries?
I'll point right back to you guys. Irish malts are the best place to find us. If you want to find us anywhere in Ireland, anywhere in the UK, anywhere in Europe, then you guys are who we always point the finger to. In terms of where we actually supply, we generally only keep, supplying locally. Our supply behind us isn't that massive. We don't have a huge stock of whiskey, so we need to manage it quite, smart and keep it as local as possible with the stock that we do have. So anywhere on the Everard Peninsula, but up in Clorglen, Tralee, Killarney, you'll find us in Super Values, and the carry-out off licenses up there as well. A few places in Cork have us. I know the Celtic Whisky Shop up in Dublin have us as well. Kerry Airport is the one and only airport that has it at the moment. So that's where you find us in Ireland, but through you guys, it's available in Europe and UK. We have sent about maybe 5 pallets into Germany. I'm not 100% sure, and I couldn't say for sure exactly where the bottles have ended up once the pallets have ended up. But if you're lucky, you'd stumble across it somewhere in a small little boutique whiskey or liquor shop in Germany. You might stumble across us. But again, if you don't find us in the shops, it's there with you guys in Irish malts. We have actually launched this particular one, the small batch. We have launched that in America. It's available in limited stores in Florida and Massachusetts at the moment, and also available on reservebar.com, which is a fairly large off-license online shop based over in the US. So I think they ship to about 38 states. So that is of the small batch only for the moment. But this year we're hoping that we might start getting a few of the 9-year-olds and the pot stills over there as well. So there's a lot of moving wheels at the moment. But yeah, and we're in the middle of a busy tour season as well. So again, like a lot of our business is based around tourism. So I'm kind of stuck here 24/7, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. So it's up to my brother and our third business partner, Stuart, to be on the road trying to make sales and stuff like that. But my job is to drink whiskey and tell stories. So it's not too bad.
Listen, worst jobs to have in the world. And thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it. This, of course, has been Dram Everyone. I'm bringing up again one more time. It's the Portmagee small batch coming in at a lovely, healthy 40% ABV. A very big thank you to you. I'm loving the rum influence, and from the looks of all the people in the comment section, they are too. A very big thank you to you. Appreciate your time, and I hope you have a lovely evening.
No worries. Appreciate having us on, Matt, and we'll do it again sometime.
Perfect. I look forward to the next release. So this is Dram Iver, though this is the second whiskey Dram 2 of the evening. This time we're going all the way to the lovely Hinch Distillery. A little more north than Kerry, but of course we're able to welcome Terry McCartan, who is the brand ambassador from Hinch Distillery, and is going to be able to tell us all about it. Terry, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hello, Matt. Thanks for having me. Very well.
Well, as I said, we're going a little more north than Kerry, but I don't think we go any more south than Kerry, so that makes sense.
Definitely, yeah. I would say out of the three tonight, we're definitely the furthest north. I think we're about maybe 45 minutes from Cologne, but yeah, so we are almost in Belfast. We're based in Ballynahinch, or just outside it. I have already poured, you beat me to it. So yeah, we're between Ballynahinch and Carryduff. So we take our name from the townland of Ballynahinch, meaning town of the island. So we're about 20 minutes outside of Belfast.
Well, a good place to be. I have a cousin who is heading up all the cruise ship business in Visit Belfast. I know that she's sending people. She's a big contingent heading to all the different distilleries. So I'm hoping you're seeing some of those lovely cruise ships that are pulling into the Belfast now, because lots of whiskey lovers on those, as far as I'm understanding.
Yeah, big time. We're seeing a good pull of kind of cruise ships and stuff coming in now, and different coach parties. So it's good having the distillery. It's a nice kind of pull slightly outside of Belfast. There's obviously another big northern distillery, the B word we call it in this house, but it's again further north. So,
well, listen, for people that don't know about Hinch, if you were to go there, you're not going to be left without, because not only are you a distillery, you're also as a off license or liquor store that not only sells whiskey but also fine wines.
Yep.
Should you be interested, and then also a bar and a cafe. So there's really no and a function hall. There's nothing you can't do.
Everything, yeah. So we've fairly big roots in wine. So if you don't know the Hinch story, our owner is another man called Terry. I'd always say same first name, different surname, really different bank accounts. So Dr. Terry Cross OBE is our chairman and our founder, and he had a packaging company back in the 80s and 90s that done most of the boxing for McDonald's, KFC, and Burger King, and then he sold that around the end of the 90s, and he ended up buying a chateau in Bordeaux as his first retirement project, the way we all do. And so that was Chateau de la Ligne, and he bought it on St. Patrick's Day 2020. He then came back home and he wanted to be part of the whiskey industry, and kind of like what James was saying earlier there about wanting to have a distillery in your backyard. Terry pretty much just decided from around 2016 to level off stables and tennis courts. He had bought Killaney Estate, which is a big old stately home here in County Down, and he built a £15 million distillery in his backyard, which is behind me. And then we put another 5 million into source stock for our blends, which is what we're enjoying tonight.
Well, I'm going to pull up a picture of the blends. Tell us a little bit about what is in the glass, because this is the picture of the bottle here, very nicely designed.
Yes, so this is our Imperial Stout finish, part of the Craft and Cask series. So it's kind of the first limited run that we had done. So we started out with our kind of core 4 of our small batch, a 5-year double wood. We did sherry finish and our peated. For the stout finish, we wanted to do like a bit of a local collaboration. So you can kind of see on the bottle there. So Whitewater Brewery, they are based in Castlewellan, which is maybe about 20-25 minutes from the distillery. And we've a good working relationship with them. Bernard Sloan is their head brewer. They've been operating from around 95, 96. And we basically take our small batch casks and empty out the whiskey and then send it off to the brewery, and they'll put their stout into it for 3 months. So it's an imperial stout, so it actually has an uptake in the alcohol percent. It goes in at 8% and it comes out at 9%. So I always describe it like a Guinness on steroids. It's a big, punchy, chocolatey malt. So they'll mature that for 3 months, and the whiskey gives it loads of like pepperiness. They'll put some vanilla pods into it as well to give it a creamy hit. And then we'll take the barrel back and then age the whiskey for 11 months. So to me, it gives it loads of like citrusy hits on the nose. It's a really weird combo between the stout and the spirit. It gives it a real kind of like fresh orange peel. And then tasting wise for me, I get a lovely kind of like salted caramel, a little bit of coffee, we mocha, chocolatey notes in there. As a beautiful whiskey sipping neat, but we work quite closely with the Spirit Circle in Belfast, the Sensorium. They're like a cocktail making experience. We were doing training with them last week, and this makes the best old fashioned I've ever tasted. The orange notes tie into it really well. So a nice neat drinking whiskey, but if you're into your cocktails, it's just under 5 years, so it's not pure sacrilege to be mixing it and experimenting.
Well, I'm gonna say sláinte it.
Yes, sláinte, said too busy talking.
So coming in at 46.4, very specific ABV.
Yes.
Was this where it tasted nice, or is there some symbolism to 464?
So our distillers just wanted to be fussy because it was our first limited release. The best way to describe it, we had tasted it at 46%. We tasted it at 48 with the 11-month finish. 46.4 just seemed to work best. We had done a previous version of this. So we had like a trilogy between Whitewater and then 2 from Kinnegad Brewery in Donegal. There were 2 IPA finishes. and they were 43%, and they were chill filtered. Whereas with this, we wanted to go say that wee bit more specific, so we upped the alcohol, and then we went non-chill filter just to get more feel of the barrel. So it was just being pernickety because of that that first kind of run we had tasted at different cuts, and the 0.4 was the sweet spot.
Very good. And in terms of the I suppose the Hinch DNA going forwards, is this something that we can expect as a part of the core range, or is this? I know you said it was the first kind of foray into limited edition, but is this idea going to go forward in the core range?
It's something that we'll definitely continue doing. So there'll be probably another release of it, maybe by summertime next year. So we started out with 2,500 cases as the limited run. So it's definitely something that will return. Whether or not it makes it into the core range, I'm not 100% to be honest with you. I think it's kind of special enough to have it stand out on its own. It is very kind of like different branding from our normal stuff. So we'll have the kind of Hinch kind of arched across the top and an age statement, and it's a bit more sophisticated. Whereas this was aimed at the younger, new whiskey drinking audience. We've had other whiskey launches, the likes of our Madeira, we had done in a wine cellar, really, really classy. Even with this, we had a bit of a rave. There's a warehouse space in East Belfast called Banana Block, and we had live music with cocktails, with games. We had Paddy McDonald's, a local comedian. I'd hosted it. So it was a real kind of like party atmosphere night. And that kind of it sums up the like the spirit of this liquid. It's young, it's a wee bit edgy and out there, and kind of meant to be consumed over the course of 4 or 5 days. Whereas other whiskies you kind of want to keep and collect. Whereas with this, it's a good communal party whiskey.
And I mean that's probably a great point. You know, you have your 19-year-old with the wine finishes and your lovely box and your price tags, and then you have your blue, white, and red core range, and then you've got your Hinch. Can a whiskey brand be all things to all people? Does it work from a branding point of view as a brand ambassador?
I think it does. Yeah, we'll say it's so. Yeah, I'll always say, like, as a Gemini of the peace process, you can definitely do both. So 2 passports, to everything. So I'll always try to juggle both. Which my ma gave off to for me when I was growing up. But if you can try to burn the candle at both ends, I'll give it a go. So you can definitely be classy and sophisticated one night and then go to a rave the next night.
I wasn't expecting that as an answer, but touche.
I was the PC version as well. So if this had been streamed after 9 o'clock, it could be a hell of a lot worse. Yeah, I think you can do it from a brand perspective. Our whole thing, part of our identity and the Hinch character is the Great Irish Elk. And it's these massive, massive antlers, and it's about being great in stature, but perfectly balanced. So from my point of view, as a whiskey drinker, as a brand rep, you can definitely kind of straddle both sides of the fence because it's about the product at the end of the day. So you're appealing to different customers. So our small batch, our 5-year double wood, the craft and cask, they're younger blends, they're award-winning blends. Like your small batch has got a gold at the International Spirit Challenge. Our double wood got the best blended Irish whiskey at the World Whiskey Awards, and then the stout finish that's got best blended limited release. So it's young blended liquid, but it's absolutely class, and it doesn't break the bank because it comes in at about 35-40 pound. And then you can go to the other extreme. So we have like a 15-year-old sherry finish and a 19-year-old Chateau de la Ligne red wine finish. So depending on your budget and on your mood and on the weather, you can drink multiple drams.
I like this coming in from Sinead and Clone. She says it tastes like Terry's chocolate orange. So
yes, I have heard that before, and I've had to stop saying it because people be like, "Oh, you get yours." But yeah, I've heard Terry's chocolate orange definitely mentioned. Other chocolate oranges are available, but not as successful.
No one knows what they're called though. So in terms of the grand scheme of the world, is this available outside of Ireland? Do we see it in other markets?
Absolutely, yes. So we're currently, we've been operating for almost 4 years now. So we are in about 35 markets worldwide. Our biggest kind of ones, so as BA, I split myself pretty much between Belfast, Dublin, and then whenever I'm working in Europe, it's kind of between Germany and the Netherlands. So our big partners in Germany, we're listed with Schlumberger, and then in Holland, it would be through Bresser and Timmer. And I have 15 bartenders that work with Bresser and Timmer coming over from the Netherlands on Sunday. So I'm bracing myself for that because it's going to be a mad few days. But yeah, so we're available across Europe. We're listed in America. We're in about 30 states at the moment, hopefully pushing up to 45 by the end of this year. And then there's other kind of movements happening in Asian markets, in South Africa. So there's wee bits and pieces that we're allowed to hint at, but they kind of tell me last because they know I'll tell everybody everything. I started as a tour guide in the distillery, so I'm very bad at keeping secrets. So.
Very understandable. A friend of mine moved from Ireland to the Netherlands in the whiskey industry. He was very excited to be exotic in the Netherlands. And if anyone's not familiar with the Dutch, tall and very good looking, all of them. I don't know why. Also fluent in English. And he used to try to chat up women, and they used to call him a cute little boy. At 5'7", he wasn't making the cut. He had a very unsuccessful time living in the Netherlands, but it's a great country. Very, very big fan of the Netherlands. So I'm sure you'll have a lot of fun with that one. Bresser and Timmer, of course, and Schlumberger, both great companies, means nothing to 90% of the people watching, but to the 10% that know, they know.
To those out there, say you know who they are. But say for ourselves in Ireland, obviously yourselves with Irish malts. If you're Dublin centric, between Celtic Whisky Store and we're really good partners with Corkscrew. So say you can definitely get them in there. Ourselves, as you said earlier, we sell at the distillery, so we've a beautiful welcome centre. And say you can get our whiskies, our wines. We also do 9th Wave Irish gin. And then we do tours of the distillery as well. So if you've come up that far for a bottle, you may as well come and see around the place. It's worth pointing. I think it's the green screen 3G, but so to say this is the stills here. And our tours absolutely class. To say our guides are really good crack. I used to be one of them. So it's a good whiskey tour and fully wheelchair accessible, child friendly as well. Kids don't drink, but they do get some fun facts for whenever they're ready. So yeah, say you can order online as well, and we say we have free post and packaging across Ireland and the UK.
Wow, absolutely fantastic. I actually just spent a weekend in Belfast there, and I stayed in, I think, the Hilton beside the train station. That is completely decked out in 9th Wave gin.
It is, yeah.
In the hotel bar. And I asked your lovely colleague, Jamie Cotter, if I won a prize for finding the hotel, and I did not. So
I hope to give me a slap on the wrist tomorrow. I imagine he's watching tonight and going bright red, as his name is.
There you go. I hope he is. If people wanted to find out some more about you online, where should people be looking to find out about Hinch and book their tours?
Yep, so directly through our website, just hinchdistillery.com. For myself on kind of social media, it's hinchdistillery_Terry. And then our own Instagram is Hinch Distillery. They have recently given me the keys to the Instagram, so I do a takeover every Tuesday, and it's proving hilarious and disastrous at the same time. So it's going well. So it's kind of the inner workings and the antics of what goes on.
There's got to be confusion with your username being Hinch Distillery _Terry.
Yes, the amount of people have reached out to me on LinkedIn and different bits and pieces. So I'll always say I'm Terry's the CEO and I'm the Chief Entertainment Officer. So it's similar but different. But so I say it might have swung me getting the job. Who knows? But I'll take it.
Fantastic. Well, Terry, thank you so much for bringing us through a fantastic whiskey. Thank you for the laughs. I can see, no one else can see this, but James, who was just on with us from Port McGee, is laughing his whole off through this entire interview. So I hope you have a lovely evening. Thank you so much. If you guys are checking out, I'm going to bring it up one more time. This is the Hinch Craft and Cask Irish Whiskey, which is the Whitewater in collaboration, the Imperial Stout Cask Finish, coming in at a very specific 46.4% ABV. Terry, brand ambassador, chief entertainment officer, not Terry Crosswell of the distillery. A very big thank you to you, and I hope you have a lovely evening.
Cheers, Matt. Thank you very much for having us.
Sláinte. Well, I tell you what, if we're going to have that much crack on dram number 2, I'm hoping now we have Shenda coming up from the lovely Cologne distillery that we're going to have as equal amount of time, starting with whiskey that I have had a beef with for years, and I will tell you, Shenda, I know you're in the background now. I have a beef with this whiskey for years because I didn't think of this name, and I have said this publicly a number of times. A phenomenal name for a whiskey, and I am raging, internally raging that I didn't think of this idea for a whiskey name. So welcome to the show.
Hi.
We're delighted to have you here. This is dram number 3, Ivor 3, and I am delighted to be welcoming you to the show. Cologne has a very soft place in my heart. One of the very first places I ever interviewed on Pot Still Radio, probably about 4 years ago. I don't know. It was Brendan had just set up, so we've definitely come a long way now. I have my glass ready here. Why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what we're drinking, who the distillery are. So take it away.
Yeah, perfect. Thanks very much for that. It's been lovely tasting the other 2 whiskies this evening. What better way to start off the weekend, eh? But I'm from Cologne Distillery. My name is Shenda, and I sort of look after, along with Brendan, the branding and sort of the management of the distillery and that there as well. We're a very small team, so we all tend to put our hands in to do a little bit of everything, which is great, and we really love. You were mentioning there, it was about maybe 4 or 5 years ago you did your first chat with Brendan, which would probably be about right. The distillery's set up now 5 coming on 6 years, and obviously for anyone that doesn't know us, we are one of Ireland's smallest distilleries, and we are actually in a cowshed. So we are a disused cowshed that Brendan found way up a little country laneway in Cologne. Not disused anymore, definitely not. So it took a bit of work for them to kind of get it up and running, because it was complete disarray. So it was, but it really has been a passion project for Brendan. He's obviously a major whiskey fan, and when he was in Australia, he got really inspired by Belgrove Distillery to come back home and do what they were doing there, which is, recreating wonderful Irish mash bills, and really focusing on quality more so than anything else rather than quantity. Obviously, to get set up, we needed to, find somewhere to get set up, which he did do. And then we needed to create products that would highlight what we want our whiskey to taste like. Our own release has been out now. It'll be 2 years this summer since our first release of our Baron Tool. But our first whiskey that we did come out with is the one that we are trying this evening, which is our Rum and Raisin, it's a fantastic name. It throws people all the time. It's so funny on tours. I know.
I have been working in the Irish whiskey industry for 12 years, creating products and selling them. And the day I saw this, I was sickened that I had spent so many years coming up with products and never thought of this. It is because it tells you exactly what it is. There's no other name. There's no other name in whiskey that tells you exactly the flavor profile. Sherry can be interpreted one way, but people can, unless someone makes like a birthday cake or like a marshmallow named whiskey, forget about it. Rum and Raisin, phenomenal.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, it's as simple as that. The name came around as simple as that. It's like, what does it, it's a reflection of the 2 finishes, cask finishes, and ultimately the 2 tastes and, notes that you get on the nose. It is the rum and the raisin. And we thought it was a fun play as well, because obviously in Ireland here, we have the rum and raisin ice cream, which is really popular. And we thought, sure, that'll, get a bit of conversation going, and it is lovely in ice cream too. But yeah, so that's where it kind of came from, and it's great that it does describe it so well.
Well, tell us a little bit about what goes into making this whiskey, other than just being delicious and tasting like rum raisin and a little bit of vanilla.
Yeah, no problem. So this is actually a sourced whiskey. So it is. We have all that information on our labels. Brendan was very sure that when he set up his distillery, transparency was going to be a major thing for him. So basically letting people know. And I think we were one of the first distilleries out there to actually specify on our labels that this whiskey isn't something we've made. It's a sourced whiskey. So you'll find all that information on the labels. Similar to our first ones from Port McGee, this comes from Great Northern Distillery. So it is. So it's a 5-year-old single malt Irish whiskey, 100% single malt Irish whiskey. What we do is we get it into the distillery and we put half into dark rum casks. On the side note, we do make our own dark rum. So we have this wonderful dark rum fresh casks. And the other half then goes into a PX sherry cask. So what we're doing here then is we're vatting 2 casks back together, which gives us a bit more control over making sure we get that wonderful balance that's there in the rum and raisin, other than doing in one cask and then finishing in another. The liquid is split and then batted back together to allow that real wonderful balance there between the rum cask and the sherry cask. So for myself on the nose, I tend to get a lot more of the rum notes kind of coming through, but I know some people do tend to pick up some of those like sort of fresh apple notes and that there with a little hint of the vanilla and that there. Once you get through onto the palate, for me and for a lot of people, that's where really, the sherry cask comes through. It shines through wonderfully. You get all those lovely dark fruits, those raisins, those figs, really coming through, and there's a wonderful long finish on this as well, which is so mellow. And again, it develops the whole entire time in your mouth, so it does. Finishing off with some really lovely sort of like dark molasses kind of sugary notes at the very end, which are just lovely. So it is. So I think everyone should, if they haven't already, have a little sip.
Sláinte. Martin is saying Cadbury's Old Jamaica chocolate in a glass, and I don't know if that's because we're from different parts of Ireland or I don't know for different ages. I have no idea what Old Jamaica chocolate is. Shenda, do you know?
It sounds familiar, but I'm not sure how. I am a big chocolate fan, so I probably have seen it somewhere. We had friends, my parents used to work with Cadbury's, and they always used to bring us up wonderful Cadbury stuff. So possibly as a child, and that's maybe why I like this so much. It's invoking some childhood memories, not from drinking, but from chocolate.
Mike D, a fierce subscriber to the show, saying you never know that it's 55%, and I'd have to agree. It's absolutely
exactly. Yeah, it always really surprises people that it is 55%, and sometimes I have to like precursor people with it, particularly if they're just having a little nip and they're the designated driver. It's just be aware it is 55%. The reason we have it at 55 is that, for Brendan and the guys when they were testing it, that's what it kind of came out at. That's what they thought was the best, kind of roundness of the rum and the real balance with the sherry there as well. But a nice added bonus for that is for people who are not big whiskey heads, is that they have a little bit of room there to, put a little drop of water in. I know for some people that would be sacrilege, but it just allows it that there. But what it does as well is when you put that little drop of water in, it really opens up those fruity notes. So it does. And it's amazing for people, even people who are very dead against it. They actually eventually try it when they see everyone else on the tours trying it. And they're like, well, maybe I'll try a wee drop in just to see. And it completely opens it up and almost changes it, to a real sort of fruity one. You're still getting those rum and those dark figs, but it's those lighter fruits really do start to shine with that little bit of extra water in it. And so it gives people that room there to experiment to see what suits them on an evening, because there could be an evening you need it at 55%, or there could be another evening where it's quite hot and you want something just that little bit lighter, a little bit fruitier. And so, knowing that a little drop or two of water or an ice cube in it isn't going to completely like flood the flavour away. It's going to enhance it all the more for you, which is nice to have.
Absolutely. And the question for you now about the packaging, if anyone knows Clone, and by the looks of the comment section, everybody knows Clone, one of the most popular distilleries in the country. This is not the normal Clone bottle shape, but this seems to be the rum and raisin bottle shape. Is this what we're going to see going forward as the kind of core bottle shape for the rum and raisin?
It is, yeah. So obviously, as many people know, the price of glass has kind of gone up like the price of everything else. So we've had to streamline our bottling. So we had to. So that's why we've gone with this new bottle shape. So we have at the 700ml as well, which means it's even better value. And that there, because it's very, very little, if at all, affected the actual retail price. So these retail around about £55. So they do on the shelf, which is fantastic. They're also available, as you know, on Irish malts, and we've recently become available in the airports in Belfast, and very shortly will be available in Dublin Airport as well. So they're a good size. Airports like 700 ml, so they do. And who doesn't like a bigger bottle? Let's be honest. But it allowed us to sort of have a bit of fun with the label. Obviously, we've had quite a few versions of the rum and raisin out. I think we got up to about maybe 9 or 10, if I'm right, before we changed over. So that's kind of nice that there is those sort of legacy rum and raisin bottles that are out there, and then this is the new one going forward. What we were finding on the old label was that we were having to switch back and forth saying it was a 5-year-old or a 6-year-old, depending on how long we aged it. So this kind of just streamlines that process for it, makes it a little bit easier that we're not panicking about the actual age statement. But most people know it is at least a minimum of 5 years that the single malt Irish whiskey is. And it's a nice bottle, it's eye-catching, it's kind of kept that kind of original styling to it, and just added in those extra lovely big raisins at the bottom, so it's obvious what they are, hopefully, for people.
Yeah, I mean, especially in our business, shipping and transport has gone up so much, not even just the cost of glass. I was getting this week a container of glass from China. The glass is one price, but our quote 2 weeks ago was €1,000 for a container to Ireland.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the week, it was €10,000, and today we got a revised quote for 20,000.
Holy moly!
So it's gone up 20x in a week and a half. So, and it's a problem as well from my business that I can quote people for only about 5 days.
Exactly,
because shipping changes so quickly. And if you wanted to go somewhere, if you want me to get something, because there's glass factories all over the place and people have notions about where their glass comes from. Recently, someone wanted me to buy glass from Uzbekistan. They make glass. I didn't know that.
There we go.
And I said it was one of those things. It was a great price until shipping came into it. So people don't. On outside in, it seems like it's the easiest business in the world. Just put it in the bottle.
Yeah.
But it's getting that glass in the quantities you want, in the time you want, can be an absolute nightmare in the kind of modern turbulent world.
Yeah, no, it completely is. So yeah, unfortunately, as I say, we've had to streamline our bottles due to the price. But again, because we're so small, it kind of makes sense as well in the long run that we sort of keep it. We can't keep a huge stock of different glass types and that there. Bottles available for the different drinks that we have. Obviously, the rum and raisin is one of our core whiskies. So it sits there alongside the Gloria, which was recently released in Aldi there, and I think it's doing really well for them, which is great. And you'll notice it's in that new bottle style as well. The label instead's been etched onto that one, so it looks absolutely fabulous. So it does. And we're also using it for the Panger Potching, which is one of our other core products there. Eventually, we may also switch our gin into that bottle. We just haven't quite decided yet. And also, we've got quite a few of those kind of bottles left at the moment anyway, so it could be a little while before it changes. But basically, it's to streamline things. We're very small. We don't have the room to keep a lot of stuff. And then if we've got something as simple as that, and we know, right, that's the bottles for them, it allows us that extra bit of room and time to concentrate on our own distillate as well, and the bottlings of that, the bar and tool, which is our own distillate.
So Whiskey Pep, wondering why the switch from the 500 to the 700 in the rum and raisin?
Basically, the 700 ml is my understanding is that it's better for export and the airport markets. So we were getting a lot of requests for people looking at. Obviously, we like the 500 ml goes really well here in Ireland and the UK. Some places in Europe it actually sells really well as also. But what we were finding in the international market was that people were more used to that 700 ml. And they were preferring that size. So it just made sense to make the switch across the board rather than having, for a little while, we did have, like 500 mils here. We were trying to do 700 mils elsewhere, but it just didn't make sense to try and have two different types. Like for initially, when we went into America, we didn't have the 700 mil. So their next size down is actually 375. So we had like smaller than the 500 mil bottles. So it's just crazy to have lots of different types. And it made sense, right? Well, if 700 is the main one across the board, then let's stick with that for now. That's not to say there won't ever be specials of it that might be in a different bottle size, who knows? But for the moment, the main one, what you'll see now is it in that 700 ml bottle.
So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
From an inside out point of view, that a nightmare to have all those different bottle sizes,
Yeah.
label, everything. But from a tourist point of view,
Yeah.
if any of our viewers are finding themselves pottering around the Mourne Mountains,
Yes.
can they come visit the distillery, see this lovely, now in full use cowshed in the Mourne Mountains?
Yeah, they can indeed. We do have set tours on our website. Generally, our tours are the last Saturday of the month, so they are. So just check out our website to see. Over the summer now as well, if anyone's popping up, we do have a lovely collaboration with Neri Nog's Chocolate, who's just right beside us. So that's a lovely chocolate and spirit tasting. So you'll get to try, obviously, their lovely chocolate alongside our wonderful whiskey, poaching, and gin as well. So that can be a fun one to do in case maybe the last Saturday of the month doesn't suit. Again, we're very happy if people are kind of passing by, and if we have the time, by all means, we'll have the chats with them. It's great because in the north now we can actually sell direct from the distillery. So sometimes we do have a little bit of extra stock there, so we can actually sell people direct something. But we don't always have stuff either. So sometimes it could, we have to still direct people to the local off licenses or their local off license wherever they've come from to sort of get the products and that there. But yeah, we're really happy to see people. If anyone wanted to organise a group, again, just simply reach out to us, and we'll always do our best to see if we can fit people in. We are small. There's only a couple of us in the team. I'll actually only be going back to work now from Monday from maternity leave, so that might allow a few extra days maybe here and there for people to pop in. But we'll see what work I have to catch up on.
Well, I'm sure I'll have you back.
Yeah.
Whiskey Pepperoni with he's visiting in about 2 weeks. He's lots of requests to bring different bottles back. Do you have the full range of Cologne at the distillery? I know you said you can sell direct now.
Yeah, we can sell direct. So we do have some. It depends what exactly you're looking and what we have at the time. Because if we have a huge shipment going out, it's more than likely we don't. So for example, there about a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks ago, we had a big shipment going out to Germany. So I know that cleared a lot of our stock out of the Panger and the rum and raisin. So until we get the next kind of bottle run done, I don't think there's a huge amount there. But again, if we don't have directly, I can always direct people to the local off license nearby. There's about 5 or 6 literally within 10-15 minutes of us. So if we don't have it, someone very nearby will have it, or the likes of Irish Malts online can obviously ship it to people as well, because that's the one thing sometimes people kind of forget. You have to take it home in your luggage, and depends how much other shopping you've done, and heaven forbid it got broken and or your luggage got lost, and sometimes buying online and getting it shipped to you is kind of the safest way to do it.
Don't worry, it's going to be right across the border. So he'll be fine.
Yeah.
If people wanted to find out more information about Cologne online, be it socials or a website, whereabouts should they be looking?
Yeah, so obviously there's our website, colognedistillery.com. We're also active on all the social channels. So we're there on Facebook and Instagram. And we also have like a Facebook group, the Cologne Cult, which is a fantastic one if you can get into that to find out, although I'm sure a few people here are probably already in that. But yeah, just reaching out in social media. On Instagram, Facebook's probably the best way to get us. We are active on X, formerly Twitter, but probably Facebook and Instagram would be the two main ones where people can get us to have a chat or whatever. We do a little bit on LinkedIn now and again, but yeah, Facebook's probably and Instagram are the main ones. We're trying a little bit on TikTok, but we're all of that not TikTok generation, so it's new technology to us. But it's fun.
Listen, it's all.
Yeah.
Shannon, thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
No.
You and everyone else who joined us tonight, Terry and James, a huge thank you. To those watching at home and those who are watching after the fact, an email went out about 5 minutes ago with discounts for all the whiskies this evening, either individually or an added discount if you want all 3 whiskies shipped directly to your door. Check those out. If you are not subscribed to 3 Drams, but you're one of the almost 60 people watching live, what are you doing? Get this box shipped directly to your door. You get to meet fantastic people like Shenda, drink spectacular whiskey like rum and raisin. But to everyone else, a very big thank you to you. To the 3 fantastic whiskies, I hope you've enjoyed them all. I really appreciate everyone's time, and of course the O'Donovan brothers and the team in Irish Malts to put this all together. A huge thank you. I have nothing to do with this. I literally show up once a month and get to talk to great people about great whiskey. Let me know in the comments section. Martin has already jumped in. Give me your 1, 2, 3 for the evening. What is your favorite whiskeys from start to finish? There's no prize. There's no right answers. It's always just interesting to see what people think, what their personal taste buds are like. Whether you're in Ireland, Newcastle, Sao Paulo, or Sydney, a very big thank you to you guys. And Shenda, to you, a very big thank you once again. I hope you had a nice time joining us for your soft relaunch back into and after maternity leave, and a very big congratulations to you.
No worries. Thank you. Best way to do it, eh?
Thanks again.
Thanks so much.